premise is our bodies are following certain health laws. And we have certain diseases. As a matter of fact, 75% of North Americans have one chronic disease or another. About 75%, which is awful. And those diseases got to be there because of a cause and effect sequence. This caused this, caused this, caused this, caused this, caused the heart attack. So what we want to do is affect that cause and effect sequence, and that's what lifestyle medicine is all about. And so let's begin with a story. Her name is Frances. She's 65 years old. It's about 1982, give or take. And she is sent home to die at the age of 65. And she just had heart attacks. She could not walk at all because of her heart disease. She was in pain to walk, so she's in a wheelchair. She had a lot of operations where they would strip a blood vessel from one part of her body and put it into her heart to make her heart work and everything else. But they ran out of plumbing, so says her son, and she was basically going to die. Then she heard of this place. She heard it on 60 Minutes on television back in the 80s. And it says here, the Pritikin Longevity Center was a place, you paid a lot of money to go to it, but they will help you where other people could not help you. And so they got Frances she lived in Florida, on an airplane with her wheelchair, somehow all involved, and she went over to Santa Barbara, California. And she went for 21 days, Frances went through their program, Lifestyle Medicine. Now, she was on a number of pills every day, forget how many. She could hardly walk. She could walk a bit just to go from her bed to her chair and get wheeled around. And you can imagine she was depressed. She felt horrible. Her family was scared. They're going to lose their mother, their grandmother, their aunt, etc. And in 21 days, they fed her high-octane fuel for her body, taking advantage of that cause and effect sequence in the body. They fed her that. They got her up walking after every meal, only a little bit at a time, but they got her going. And then in 21 days, Frances was now walking 10 miles a day. 10 miles a day. In 21 days, they got her doing that. And they fed her all the good stuff her body needs. And then, remember, she's only given 1 year to live. She goes back home, and then she lives for 31 more years, and she dies at the age of 96. She's supposed to be dead at 65. She lives until 96. What made that happen? And how can we take advantage of that very same thing? This is her kind of going through the finish line right now. You can see her. Look how good she is. Actually, this is her picture. I don't know how old she is here in the picture, but she's the one that lived until she's 96. The doctor says, you're going to be dead at 65. What made the difference? Lifestyle medicine. That's what I'm going to be sharing with you, lifestyle medicine. Well, her grandson at that time, when she was 65 years old, was 10 years old. Her grandson was just devastated to know that his grandmother's going to die at the age of 65. No more Christmases with grandma, no more birthdays with grandma. And then when he sees her coming home without the wheelchair, she's walking 10 miles a day now when she can hardly walk before at all. She's down to, I don't know how many pills from, like either 0 pills or just a few. And she's living year after year, and finally she lives until she's 96. That little boy named Michael, he grows up to be Michael Greger, Dr. Michael Greger, who happens to have written the book How Not to Die and How Not to Diet. And Dr. Michael Greger says, I want to do for the world what the Pritikin Longevity Center did for my grandmother. And so he's been on a mission ever since to do this. And so the books that he's written, How Not to Die, How Not to Diet, How Not to Age, the cookbooks that go along with that, he doesn't make a dime from those. He could be a millionaire. He's got somebody supporting him, and he's doing this very, very well. Well, interestingly enough, at the Pritikin Longevity Center, by the way, this is Michael Greger here, he says, how not to die, discover the foods that are scientifically proven to prevent heart disease. Some of it's cut off, I see there, you can't really read it all. And this is him here. But back at the Longevity Center in Santa Barbara, California, is this man here. He's called Hans Diehl. Hans Diehl, in the 1980s, is the one in charge of taking all the data of people coming into the Pritikin Longevity Center. So he's taking Frances Greger's data, her blood pressure, her ability to walk, all the tests, the triglycerides, the BMI, the body mass index, everything else you can measure. That was Dr. Hans Diehl's job, to measure that. And so he is there. He is measuring everybody else as well, writes down their data. He is the coordinator of all that. And 21 days later, Dr. Hans Diehl sees Frances Greger walk out of the Pritikin Longevity Center with no wheelchair, and he says, how can I make that happen for more people around the world? And so he started a new program. Do you know what the program was called? It was called the CHIP program. And the CHIP program stood for Coronary Health Improvement Project. But interestingly enough, while they were helping people with their coronary health, they discovered, as I'll share with you in a moment, Dr. Dean Ornish said these words, whatever we do for your heart, it helps your diabetes. What we do for your diabetes will help prevent cancer. What we do for that will help with a number of other diseases, including depression and obesity and everything else, especially the chronic diseases. So they changed the name of CHIP from Coronary Health Improvement Project to a Complete Health Improvement Program, because it works for so very much. Why? Because the underlying conditions are the same for all chronic diseases. That's the interesting thing. We think this disease has this remedy, this disease has this treatment, this disease has that treatment. But the fact is, if you go back to the very first root causes of disease, especially chronic disease, the treatment for one disease will affect, in a good way, the treatment for all the other diseases. And that's why I love to do lifestyle medicine, because it helps in so very many ways. So I heard about Dr. Hans Diehl in the 90s. And my wife and I, we happened to be a pastor and wife in a place called Mission and Maple Ridge. And we thought, and before that was Port Hardy when we first heard about him in the 90s. We said, we need to do that program where we are. And so the first place we did it was Mission, and then we did it in Maple Ridge, and this is a book that we put out there. And we were so inspired by what Hans Diehl was able to do by having these programs, these CHIP programs all over the United States and Canada and then around the world, that this guy right here, you see him here, riding his bicycle? He had a number of multiple bypasses. He was, what does it say here? On 20 pills a day. And he went to the CHIP program. He learned about how to eat, how to exercise, how to get your rest, and all those things. And he was a guy who said, you know what? I'm so inspired by what I just learned. I lost all this weight. I feel so good and energetic. I'm going to ride my bicycle halfway across Canada. And so he did. And that is amazing. That's what we can do when we imbibe in all these things. Well, so I thought, I was inspired by that. So I'm talking to my team in Mission and another team in Maple Ridge. I said, can we do this too in Maple Ridge? Can we do this in Mission? This grumpy guy, does he look like a grump to you? He's what you call an ornery man. You say hello to him, and he says, you're in my face. That's him, all right? He came to our information session for the program. I'm explaining to him what the CHIP program can do for you. He raises his hand. He says, "What's in it for you?" He's just grumpy. And he told us he was on 23 pills a day. 23 pills a day. And he's so grumpy and so impolite and so, what's a good word for him? I don't know, just Mr. Grumpy Pants or something. I hoped that he wouldn't join our program, which was a month long, 4 nights a week, 4 weeks in a row. Right? That's this comprehensive program. I was hoping he wouldn't join it, but he did. He paid his money. It was $200 and something at the time. And he came. He came to the program, and he was impolite, he was disrespectful, but he kept on coming, and he started getting nicer, and people just hugged him and loved him and stuff like that. Then we have the graduation, right? 30 days later, graduation. And we give out the reports of, okay, so-and-so, their blood pressure went down, so-and-so, their triglycerides went down, so-and-so, it all went down. No battery? Low battery, Gary, in the camera here. Thank you for that, yes. I won't bother with that, I'll let them work on that, but that's what she said. So everything that needed to go down went down in all these participants. And our guy, Fred, he was the star of the class. He had his cholesterol went down like 40%, which is really pretty cool. I don't think drugs can do that. And then he also said, I was on 23 pills a day. Now he's down to 3 pills a day. He was inspired by that guy who took his bicycle and rode his bike halfway across Canada. And it was a dream that he had that he could dust off his old bike in his basement, and if only he could ride his bike. Remember, he couldn't breathe except for if he walked across the kitchen, he'd get out of breath. He'd just get out of breath. So he decides to take his bicycle, and now he's able to, because of the CHIP program, because of the lifestyle medicine principles, he is now able to ride his bike from Maple Ridge to Mission and back again. Do you know how far that is? That's like the length of a marathon, both ways. He's able to do that. How can he do that? That was so inspiring. So we put on more of these programs. One lady comes up to me. She says, I thank you for what you did for my husband. You've given me my husband back again. And she had tears in her eyes. What are you going to do when people are so affected by the health principles that it saves lives, it reduces suffering? What are you going to do except do more of it to keep on going? And that's what we did. Here's a heart surgery happening right here. And that grumpy old man had heart surgery. And this is him riding a bike right there. This is riding a bike. So the fact is, we do have the power. We have the power, what does it say? To influence the cause and effect sequence in our bodies. That's the whole point. We're able to take the laws of nature that our body works on and influences the outcomes by us influencing the inputs and see whatever happens. And the perfect example is the domino effect. The domino effect. Think of dominoes falling, 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 and finally the heart attack. Or turn it all around. You go to the root cause, the domino falls because you've eaten a breakfast full of whole fruits and nuts and grains. You got exercises. You did all the. I'll share the principles in a moment. You did that, and that domino effect. One domino falls, another one, and soon, instead of getting the heart attack, you end up being able to do a 10K run instead. This is the difference that lifestyle medicine can make. And this is what I put in the book called The Full Power Plan, which you can either win. I think you can either win it as a prize or you can buy it as well. So the question is, how do we start this? How do we start this process? Well, we need to learn the principles, the best principles of body-mind transformation. The best ones. There are many principles out there. There's many things that science and medicine will say to do. But if you learn the top ones, then you do those and see where you end up and see if you end up like Fred, for example. So, this is not Fred, this is John. John was one of those guys who was given 1 year to live, but 1 year to live. He was a diabetic. As a diabetic, his blood sugar was out of control. He had insulin resistance. He had complications with his heart, and he was given 1 year to live. And poor John, what was he going to do? The healthcare system had done all the healthcare system could do for John. So he goes to Dr. Youngberg, who has a book called Diabetes Undone. He goes to his program. He reads up on what to do for lifestyle medicine. Drugs is not doing it for him, so he learns whatever he can do. Now, I want to show you the picture of John coming down the stairs onto a beach. And then I'm going to show you another picture of him on the beach. One picture will be a before picture, and the other will be an after picture, but it's a little video clip. Let's just see. Now, here he is. Watch him. Okay, now look at him. Okay, let's do another one. He's on the beach. Here he is on the beach. He has 1 year to live. Remember this. He has 1 year to live on that, walking that way. Now, does it look like he has 1 year to live now? And he's going faster. This guy is defying what the doctors told him. Why? Because he's learning the cause and effect sequence of what the body responds to. That's what he's doing. And so, how do we do that? How can we get that? The principles, the top principles, the most effective principles, are the ones that we can see in the acronym called full power. Full power. And I'm going to share with you what they are in a moment, but I want to think about a full power being like a workshop. Just think, and sometimes people say, oh, I feel like I'm just an old jalopy. My tires are flat, my oil is leaking, I need a lot of body work, just like an old jalopy car, right? So you take your body and your mind, and you run it through the full power workshop. So here it is going in. You see it there? It's getting work done. It's getting work done. But you keep on working at it, and look what comes out. Look at that. Now it's worth a $1.2 million Ferrari. And you can have that kind of a body. I just showed you, John. It is possible. It is possible. We talked about Fred. It worked for Fred. Francis lived 31 more years. So it's not like this is just exaggeration. This is science. This is creation science, you could even say. It is so amazing. How do we know this stuff? Well, we do these tests. We take some people, we give 100 people, 50 people we do nothing with, and the other 50 people, we feed them carrots and broccoli and whole fruits and nuts and grains and vegetables, and then we see the difference. We see it all. Here's one test. This time, they took 2 rats. And if you love rats, then you will love this. If you don't like rats, you can look away. I'll just tell you what you missed. One rat, the idea was they're going to put the rat into a vat of water. And rats don't want to drown, so they swim around looking for an escape or for a retreat. And there's a little island in the water. And the idea is to count how many seconds it takes for the rat to find his way to safety. That's the test. How long does it take? But for one rat, they feed him junk food. The equivalent of French fries and potato chips and ice cream and high foods, high sugar foods, high salty foods, high fatty foods, all day long for however long, I don't know how they feed this rat for. And then they put him in. And then they get another rat, and they feed him the equivalent of whole foods, plant-based nutrition. Whole foods, plant-based nutrition. And then they count how many seconds does it take for the rat to find safety. So here we go. Let's see what happens now. Take a look at, there's the first rat. Dumped him in. Now he doesn't want to drown, so he's looking around. And oh, bam, there he is. Wow. He found that. I wonder how long that took. We'll tell you in a moment. Second rat. Look at the second rat. He doesn't know what to do. Now the thing is, the scientist here is explaining what's going on. Because of the high sugar diet, high fat diet, and high salt diet that this rat had, she's explaining right now, that rat's brain is unable to solve problems as fast as the other rat. And he's going down now, maybe he'll save himself. He's right there. There he is. He's up there. All right, finally he finds his place. Now let's find out how long it took. Whole Foods plant-based rat, 5.2 seconds. The other rat that was fed junk food, 36.2 seconds. That's the difference. Now, we're not rats, of course, but we do have, believe it or not, a similar digestive system as rats do. There is that. And so you can make the connection between rats and human beings, and they do that all the time. Point being, what are we feeding our brains? We just heard Anna talk about what we put into our brain. It's so cool that way. So figure out which side you want to be on. Do you want to be on the tasty side? Or do you want to be on the green side? Because when I say, you know what I mean by tasty, right? Let's call them what they really are. Tasty toxins. Tasty toxins. We love our tasty toxins. And we need to figure out a way how to enjoy broccoli and cauliflower and other kinds of stuff like that. That's what we got to do. You figure out the control group versus the test group. So I'm going to go through here. I'm going to skip through that. I will go back. How are we doing for time? Yeah, a few more minutes. I'm going to go back. This couple represents, it's not the real couple, it represents a business couple. They own a business, and she gets Alzheimer's. She is a lady who usually in the business does the book work, the math, the accounting, and all that kind of stuff. And he does more the marketing and the sales. And so she is the smart, analytical, book work accountant lady for the business, the husband and wife team. Then she gets Alzheimer's. It's early stage Alzheimer's. And she can no longer do the books. And she knows she can't do the books. And he knows she can't do the books. And then they hear about a program from Dr. Dean Ornish in California. Dr. Dean Ornish is famous for proving with high-tech science that low-tech answers make us healthy. Eating apples, apple a day, that kind of stuff. He proved it. He's sometimes called the father of lifestyle medicine. But now Dr. Dean Ornish turns his attention to Alzheimer's to find out, will eating beans and greens and carrots and drinking only water and having low sugar, low fat, low salt, will that help someone in their mind with Alzheimer's? So he does this experiment. He brings people in, and they're in there for I don't know how many weeks. And it's about 72 hours worth of time that Dr. Dean Ornish would spend with all the patients. This lady goes in with her hopes held high. And after the 6 weeks, however long it was, I really don't know, it might have been 3 months, her husband decides to test her secretly by saying, honey, here's some accounting work that needs to be done for our business. Could you do the simple addition part of it? Not the whole thing, just the simple addition part. She could never do that before. I mean, with the Alzheimer's, I mean. So she takes it, and not only does she do the simple addition, she does the entire accounting project. all perfectly, hands it back to her husband, and her husband has tears in his eyes because he realizes that Dr. Dean Ornish's program worked on his wife. Her Alzheimer's had been reversed, early stage Alzheimer's. Now, that happened to 10 people. The study wasn't big enough to prove that whole foods plant-based will universally reverse Alzheimer's. We can't go that far to say that. But he did divide 52 people into two groups, a group of 26 and a group of 26. The group that got the fruits, nuts, grains, and vegetables and legumes, that group, 26 group. The other group got whatever they eat normally, called usually a SAD diet, Standard American Diet, SAD, SAD. So he was able to compare the groups. Of the group that got the poor diet, the regular diet that most people eat, which is poor, nobody improved their Alzheimer's, nobody. And as a matter of fact, if they did anything, they went backwards. In other words, their Alzheimer's increased. In the other group, nobody went backwards, and 10 of them actually reversed their Alzheimer's, 10 of them. And one of them was this lady that we see here. And so there's some hope that Mother Nature's way of doing things can not only help you with your muscles, with weight loss, with fitness, with disease reversal, it can help you with your brain as well, with your memory, with your mental capacity. Isn't that cool? Isn't that just the coolest thing? It is possible to reverse, at least from this study, early stage Alzheimer's even. Something thought was never able to be done. How do we do it? What's the whole point? I'll end it with this slide. Now I'm going to skip through and get to it with a few more slides later. What are they doing here in this picture? They're mopping up the water. Notice that the man, what he's wearing around his neck, he's wearing a stethoscope. This represents a doctor working with a patient, working on the symptoms. But what if I showed you this? Now what? Are you going to spend your time mopping up the water when the tap is still running and overflowing the sink? You tell me, what are you going to do? Turn off the tap. That is so logical. This is what lifestyle medicine does. It says, yes, we need to wipe up the water on the floor, yeah, deal with the symptoms, yeah. But there's no sense in continuing doing that only when the tap is still running. Turning off the tap is what lifestyle medicine is all about. So the doctor gets asked this question, how long do I need to continue mopping the floor? In other words, how long do I need to continue taking these pills? The doctor says, the rest of your life. Often that's what happens, the rest of your life. You're a diabetic now, you're going to take pills the rest of your life. I'm here to tell you that is not necessarily true for most, especially recent diabetics. 80% of the people who come into these programs, 80% of the diabetics walk away with their disease of diabetics reversed. We just had a program, Anna just talked about it, called 1 Week to Wellness. We had three diabetics or two? I forget, 2 or 3. Last year we had 7. All 7 of the diabetics last year got rid of their diabetes. All 7 of them in 1 week. In 1 week. This year, all 3 of them did. And we measure them, and they're under doctor's supervision, so I wouldn't try this at home because you need to adjust things as you go along. Whole point being that this is very, very powerful. And sometimes, in many cases, more powerful than drugs, more powerful than medication even. So I'm going to go through here. Here's the main question I want you to go away with. You're saying, should I eat? What should I eat? What should I eat? Here's the question to ask yourself. What should I eat? Does it grow from a tree, bush, vine, or garden? If the answer is yes, and if it's edible, then that's what we eat. Does it come from a factory or a manufacturer? If the answer is yes, that's what we don't eat. So basically eat from the garden pretty well. And we have some people over in the parking lot. Dean is his name. What's her name? Leona? Leona. Dean and Leona. They grow this garden food. And I have just heard this very morning from an email that I got this morning regarding tomatoes. You go to the store, you buy a tomato. 50 years ago, if you bought a tomato, you would get I'm not going to say 50, but 50 times more nutrition in that one tomato than you get now in a store-bought tomato today. Answer, grow stuff and then eat what you grow, like those people are doing over there. It's just amazing what we hear about. So does it grow in your garden? Does it grow on a vine? Does it grow on a tree? Does it grow in a bush like berries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries growing on a vine? Does it do that? Then that's the type of food that caused Fred to have more hope and get rid of like 19 of his pills every day. That's the type of fuel that helped Francis Gregor live 31 more years instead of die in 1 year. That's the type of fuel that helped John, the guy coming down the steps and running on the beach. That's the kind of fuel that he was eating that caused him to have his life back again. That's what works for him. And I'm guessing it'll probably work for you and me too. What do you say? I think we'll stop right now and go on to the next speaker. Give yourself maybe a minute or two break, and we'll go on to Claire. Thank you, Claire, for coming up in a little bit.